Welcome to this special edition of the Utah Stories Show. Thanks for joining me. So, I decided to do a short show from Croatia. I'm on vacation because last week, before I left, I published a story about asking, is there a homeless killer in downtown Salt Lake City? And if so, then why aren't the police addressing this issue? Why aren't they getting back to me? Why are they asking for me to file a grandma request, which is a subtle way of saying we don't want to tell you? Um, I wanted to respond to the flack I've gotten and I'd say, harsh comments that I've received, especially from the Salt Lake City Police Department PR department themselves about this story and me asking this question. Um, so let's start with that, and then I want to talk about what is journalism in this episode. So the Salt Lake City Police Department responded to my post where we asked the question if there were homeless killers in downtown Salt Lake City, and they didn't want to answer that question. I just said, give me the total numbers of bodies recovered from the Jordan River. Give me the total numbers of homeless deaths you have. Give me the total of number, and this is all in the past year, of bodies recovered, cold case files. And they would not do that. They said, you're going to have to file a grandma request. Normally, mainstream media outlets would then kill the story. They'd say, okay, we're going to wait on the police getting back to us with a grandma after the grandma request is filed, and then we're going to pursue the story further. I'm not a mainstream media outlet. Utah Stories is not mainstream. I would say we're more aggressive for the truth, and we want to find out what's actually going on more quickly. So I decided to go ahead and publish a story that the police are not answering our questions. They're basically pursuing stall tactics, and they're wanting to not tell us the number of homicides that have been in downtown Salt Lake City reported among the homeless population, or the number of potential foul play cases that have been reported. They just didn't want to tell me that. So why was I pursuing this story in the first place? Because back in January, there was a homeless encampment off North Temple. And a guy who kind of ran the camp, I'd say it was only about 20 people, said they just pulled 2 more bodies out of the Jordan River. And you can go watch this video and see him saying that. And I said, what? And he says, yeah, this is the number 42. This is the 42nd body they've pulled out in the Jordan River in the last 6 months. And I said, I haven't heard about this. And he said, that's because the news isn't reporting on it. The other people in the camp agreed. They'd seen the bodies being pulled out, put into body bags. I then called the police department and I said, can you confirm this? Can you deny it? What's going on? Are a lot of homeless people being killed? And they would not confirm it. They would not deny it. They would not even call me back in January. I just kept getting the runaround. You got to talk to this guy. No, talk to this guy. No, talk to that guy. And I was unhappy about the result, but I did not pursue the story because I wasn't able to provide any corroborating evidence or data by the police. And so fast forward to July, and I said, I hear again from a girl who's recently homeless. She was a single mother, that there's a serial killer, as she described it, on the loose. And they now are up to 62 bodies found. And of course, I'm not going to believe this right away. I'm going to try to get a hold of the Salt Lake police and get an answer. And so we're having some issues. Shoot. Okay, I think that hopefully that's going to work for a while now. So anyway, we then followed up with the police department, and we said, come on, tell us what's going on. Are there bodies being found? And then by this time, Eric Peterson for City Weekly of the Utah Investigative Journalism Project had reported that there was a murder and the police weren't pursuing an investigation. It was a murder of a homeless man. He did the story for City Weekly, and I thought this gives me a little more weight to have them respond to me. So they did. They responded by email saying that we are not going to we're not going to give you any data regarding bodies found in the Jordan River. We're not going to give you any data regarding anything. So I decided to go ahead and publish a story. Salt Lake Police Department posted on Twitter that this is patently false. This has no supporting evidence other than anonymous testimony of homeless people. They were not anonymous, neither one of the people who told me that they had seen homeless people's bodies being pulled out of the Jordan River. Neither one of them were anonymous. That's not true. And then this is patently false is also not true. Nothing in my story was false at all. So I challenged the police department, tell me what was false in my story. Everything in my story was absolutely true. And so this now brings me to my point. What is journalism? What is good journalism? I've been, reading a lot of stories over the years of what the news is providing these days. The news is providing a story that last week, the biggest story was the rainstorm and that a guy stole a backhoe and tore up a parking lot using that backhoe. Now that's news, right? That is also considered journalism. But if you look at what traditionally journalism is and was, and you look at, say, Harper's Weekly, when they were reporting on the Mormons, I've just gotten into this recently, they were reporting on what the Mormons were doing here in the Great Basin Desert. How were they surviving? It was a person journaling, going through, talking to people, asking questions, trying to get those questions answered. So I consider myself a journalist. I talk to people at the grassroots. I actually talk to homeless people. I've talked to 24, at least, homeless people this year and interviewed them and recorded them. I've only put a small portion of those out there, those interviews. I do consider myself a journalist, and I consider myself doing good journalism. But a lot of people were choosing to follow the line of the police department and smear my story because we're asking a very difficult question, a question that could scare people. We're asking a question, are there homeless people that are being murdered? I'm asking that question because several homeless people have told me that indeed that is happening. So I believe that is good journalism. Just reporting on the rainstorm, reporting on the jazz, reporting on the daily news, that is a good function of society. We need our daily news. But good journalism means asking good questions. I think we need to consider that is what we need more of. And if a bunch of homeless people are telling me they're witnessing bodies being pulled out of the Jordan River, they're being put into bags, they're being taken away, why would we decide that community, members of that community, our homeless community, their questions, their observations don't matter and are not valid? And then why should we decide that the Salt Lake City Police, in using these tactics to delay us from finding the truth, should just be okay? That should be a non-story, that the Salt Lake City Police does not want to give us answers. So I certainly hope the police does give us answers very soon. I think we are beginning to put more and more pressure on them. I believe there is a story here. A man pointed out to me recently that a bill was passed in the state legislature requiring the Salt Lake City Police Department to put cold case murders or deaths into the public database of deaths that are occurring. I didn't even know they were not doing that. So the state legislature actually had to pass a bill to tell Salt Lake City Police Department, you have to put cold case deaths of anonymous people or homeless people into the public database so that the media and the public know who these people are or know of people who are dying. There are currently 430 cold case files of missing people, and that number is going up and up and up, and those numbers and those people deserve to have their identities and their murders or their deaths be at least recorded. So that's it for this edition of Utah Stories Show, coming from Croatia. I'm going to have an additional story coming up soon. Observations that every American could learn from Europe. I've been observing a lot of stuff that's been going on here, and I think there's a lot of interesting things happening in Europe that we could actually learn from, especially as Salt Lake City's population continues to grow and grow and grow, and how do we accommodate more and more density. So we're going to be doing that in the future, and I really appreciate all the people who've been giving us kudos for the work we're doing, and subscribing to the channel, subscribing to our digital newsletter, which is free, and subscribing to our print magazine, which is $24 for the year. We send you Utah Stories print magazine anywhere in the continental United States for 24 bucks. Thank you all so much for all your support. I really appreciate that. With that, I'll see you next time back in Salt Lake City in our studio, and we're going to have some great interviews coming up. So stay tuned for that coming next week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.